Well, hello there, my dapper knight. Do you have something impressive to show me?
Why, yes, my lady. I have captured a truly magnificent beast. Quite the fiend, if I do say so myself.
Oh my. Does it have sharp claws and ferocious teeth?
Oh, it does, madame.
Does it howl at the blood-red moon?
Oh, it prowls at all hours of the night, my lady.
And does it yearn for the taste of red meat?
As a matter of fact, it does. Yes, it does.
Oh, I simply must see it, good sir.
Ah, I have it right here. I call her Little Miss Fuzzy Boops.
Hey there folks, I am Jeff. This is Tabletop Toolbox, and while I might be sitting in Richmond, Virginia as I film this, I'll be taking you to Atera, a fantasy land of quarreling kingdoms and the new setting of a crowdfunding project, Beasts and Diplomacy by Mike Kribel. First off, of course, let me mention that everything you're going to see here is a prototype of this game in which you and your fellow players will act as knights, engaging in an annual competition to collect and display powerful, fantastical beasts from all across the lands of Atera, gaining the intrigue and admiration of prosperous diplomats who will award you with their praise and their points if you can meet their ambitious desires. This competition happens in the center of Atera, and in the center of your table will be this main board, which will provide these diplomats their cherished beasts, as well as a wealth of other interesting folks for players to interact with. Yes, this board is covered with cards, and there are 400 different cards in this box, spread across 6 different decks. Let me go ahead and take you through them. These are the diplomats. Each will expect anywhere from 1 to 3 beasts in your display by the end of the game in order to earn their points, but they'll also reward you with a small stipend if you or any other player at the table displays a requisite beast during the game. These are traders. For reasons we're never quite aware of, they want to buy your beasts. Each one has a mandatory requirement at the top and 2 optional attributes that can earn you more money if met by a beast you choose to sell. These are personnel, and they come in 3 different varieties. Some will tuck under and modify a location card. Others will tend to and even modify your captured beasts. The rest will pop in throughout the game to give players powerful one-time benefits. These are location cards, which must be purchased and played in order to house your powerful beasts, and these are quest cards, which give players additional ways to grab some endgame points. And that of course leaves us with the beasts. These colorful, majestic, and occasionally terrifying beings power the engine of this game with a robust array of physical and fantastical attributes. Each beast card, in addition to a value in points and a maintenance cost, will feature 6 different attributes. At the top, one of the 6 kingdoms of Atera in which the beast resides. Beneath that, its primary color. Then, 4 distinct attributes of the animal, like its species, in this case, a dragon. Next to that, its element. This one is a fire beast. Below those, 2 straightforward attributes, whether the beast is diurnal or nocturnal, and lastly, whether it's an herbivore, carnivore, or omnivore. With over 23,000 possible combinations, each of the game's 120 beast cards are entirely unique. Players will be gaining these cards over multiple phases, repeating over just 3 rounds or days of the game. You'll start off each day with some new quest cards, and throughout the game, you'll be able to swap out your cards not just with new ones obtained each day, but also with any cards discarded by your fellow opponents. Then you'll deploy your personal workers to go out and recruit these traders, diplomats, personnel, and beasts. Yes, you might be surprised to learn that players will collect nearly all of these cards using a simple drafting mechanism. I guess you could say that you're more of a upper management kind of knight. Any number of workers can be placed in each area, but there are special priority spaces for the first few workers which provide a King's Favor token to their player. Every 3 favor tokens are immediately traded in for a King's Medal, which award additional points at the end of the game. Players will take turns placing a worker and drafting a single monster, trader, diplomat, or personnel card, or they can play a single-use worker if the Phase 2 symbol on the card is shown in green. You'll start with just a few workers and will gain one more in each subsequent day, but you're not actually limited by the number of workers in your charge. After all of your workers are deployed, you can either spend 5 ore, the currency of a Terra, or discard 2 cards from your hand to move an existing worker to a new location, drafting another card. Your workers are loyal to a fault, but each can only be reassigned once before laying down for the rest of the day. I actually like this concept. It's flexibility with a reasonable cost that lets players make some risky decisions. It's also baked into the game. You don't need any special cards or upgrades to let you take this action. I'll also mention that any cards discarded by players again become available for any other player, even you, to later draft into their hand. The third phase is a quick one, where players will play as many diplomats from their hand as they wish, stacking them vertically into their tableau. You may wonder why you wouldn't want to play every diplomat you have, but that's because once you've told them that you'll meet their expectations, you'll have to literally bribe them to forget the two of you ever met. And at the end of the game, you'll score extra points only if all the diplomats are satisfied. In the afternoon of each day, the fourth phase, players will take 1 turn each, triggering a number of available actions as many times as they can and wish. You can play any beasts, provided you have a location to store them in, which will cost you 3 ore. You can sell beasts to traders, you can install personnel at locations, or assign them to beasts. Doing so can actually change an attribute, like the color of the attached beast. Now, you might think, as I did when first learning the game, that this phase could drag out a bit in each round, sitting there waiting for each player to take all their desired actions. But there's actually a unique wrinkle here, and it's one I've already briefly touched upon. Each diplomat in play is so excited about their favorite beasts that they'll reward their owner if any player manages to put one on display. So you'll need to quickly show each beast you play to your opponents so their diplomats can react to your new arrival. While this step can slightly pump the brakes on the pacing of the game, these little stipends can actually help you with the 5th and final phase of each day, paying the bills. Each beast and each location has a maintenance cost, which must be paid, but not only that, personnel and diplomat cards left in your hand incur a cost as well. And you can't just discard these cards to avoid it. You'll instead have to sell off your beast and location cards for far less than you wish they were worth until your wealth exceeds your debt. This makes careful management of your finances a crucial aspect of beasts and diplomacy. There's no income phase. You're never guaranteed any amount of money, at least not until the cards are safely ensconced in your hand. Play conservatively and you should have no issue paying the bills, but you may also be leaving valuable points on the table, quite literally. Keeping yourself on the brink of bankruptcy is a strong path to victory, but fly too close to the sun and you might just end up cooked. Beasts and Diplomacy is a pretty interesting game, and I realize that's a nebulous descriptor, so let me explain. Early in the game, it's a lesson in frugality. You likely won't be able to afford everything you want to do or want to play into your tableau. Mid-game ramps up quickly as you've hopefully secured some funding to start dropping down some vicious beasts, working your staff a little harder to provide a variety of useful cards in your hand. The last day becomes a frantic flurry of activity as you're trying to assure your diplomats you'll have all their demands met by the end of the day while trying to hoover up every extra point possible to secure your win. But the game itself isn't very heavy in terms of strategy. It's just about managing all those loose ends, keeping track of dozens of different icons across a broadening tableau of cards in front of you. In fact, besides the step of broadcasting new beasts to your fellow players, the only other time the game can bog down a bit is during the worker placement phase, when players are poring over the 66 icons present in the display of diplomats, traders, and beasts up for offer on the main board. Beasts and Diplomacy can be played up to 6 players and reduces the number of workers players get at 3 and 6 players to keep the overall playtime in check. This makes the competition a little tighter at those player counts with less workers throughout the game and less starting currency. There's also a solo mode which makes no changes to the base rules and requires no bot to play against. You simply must achieve a score in excess of 100 points with no players to trigger your diplomats for extra stipends. There are also some achievements in the rulebook you can aim for in your solo plays. There is also a family mode included in the game, which strips out several layers of the game's mechanisms, providing a more approachable experience for younger or inexperienced players. I'll admit I've never tried this mode of play, but it removes both sides of the main board as well as the location card deck. In the family mode, you'll still collect quests and try to match diplomats to their beasts of choice, but there's no resources to manage and no costs to pay. You'll likely still find yourself buried in a bit of iconography, but you won't have to worry about tanking your tableau if things get a bit out of hand. I've been able to play a few competitive games of Beasts and Diplomacy, and I've had a pretty good time with it. As I said, there isn't a lot of complex strategy. You're not trying to fire off multi-action combos, and there's no real engine to develop throughout the game. Most of it is simply managing a lot of icons across a lot of cards, which is a system that might not be for everyone. I've definitely enjoyed some clever tactics, though, with the one-time use personnel. They can be pretty fun and powerful if triggered at the right time. As far as components go, there isn't much to comment on here. There aren't a ton of tokens except for the Ore, King's Favor, and King's Metal tokens, but as I said, there are nearly 400 different cards. The art design is a little dark, with lots of black and dark shades in play. There is one element to the appearance of this game which I certainly can't ignore. The game's designer, Mike Kribel, also provided all of the art for the game, which he's done entirely with the assistance of artificial intelligence. I can tell you personally that each card in this game features unique art, and as a first-time designer, Mike saw no way to produce this game without the use of AI. Now, I have no intention of trying to condemn or condone the use of AI art, but I thought it might be a good idea to let Mike speak for himself. So for the first time ever here on Tabletop Toolbox, I'd like to invite the game's designer to join me mid-video. So please welcome to the channel, Mike Kribel. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Mike, I've already explained to the audience that we're going to talk about the path you took with the art in this game, but as a bit of an icebreaker, I'd first like to invite you to share with us your inspiration for this game. What led you to create Beasts and Diplomacy?
So basically, I'm going to try and give you the shortest version possible. I'm a video game developer with a lot of years of experience, almost 2 decades now, and I was always working on video games, but that started bothering me at some point because I noticed that the business model of video games was sort of shifting from a revenue model, which I think is moral, to a retention model, which I think is immoral. As a father of 5, one of the activities that I've been discovering and doing more as of the last 2 years or something, probably 3 by now, is playing board games. And I discovered, as I started to play board games with people I didn't know as well, that it was a completely different world, where players would be cordial to one another and that sort of thing, which I really appreciated. And so the creative juices started flowing, and I decided, let's make a game.
Okay.
So one of my personal passions is cars. The things with 4 wheels that go vroom vroom, that give you freedom to go wherever you like, those. So I essentially created a prototype that had cars in it. And I went through a bunch of iterations and kept play testing, and the game was called Cars with and Friends, I think, or something like that, and then Cars and Influencers. I can't quite remember now, but it was all about cars. You played a YouTuber, an automotive YouTuber, who was supposed to assemble a collection of cars that would appeal to all of the other influencers out there who would be providing you with donations, and also they would have requirements because that's how YouTube works, and so they will be judging your collection.
I must admit, I find that pretty fascinating, because after our first play of this, I had the thought even then that I would love to see this reworked as a game about collecting and showing off cars, which I'll admit, that is a theme I would love to see in a board game.
That is actually a great segue, because none of our colleagues in the board game world also appreciate cars. So that is really the fundamental reason why I decided to shift gear and go to the different theme, which is dramatically more successful with board gamers.
Okay, so you decide to retheme cars and influencers to Beasts and Diplomacy, and I'll even share with the audience that this game has a well-established backstory. You even have an entire prologue in the rulebook about where the story is set and why this is an event that players are participating in. So, obviously this was an immense challenge to immerse players into this environment. How did you tackle that?
The thing is, once I realized that I wanted to change theme, I obviously brainstormed for a bit as to what kind of theme I could go for. And art would have been absolutely central, right?
Yep.
So I started thinking about what options existed, came up with a couple of ideas, and then I started talking with artist friends that I knew were great quality artists from the video game world.
Okay.
As I started talking to my artist friends, they were telling me, okay, well, the timeline is going to be X, and the pay is probably going to be this. I charge this much an hour, and I was like, this is never going to happen. This is impossible. I can't even vaguely square the numbers.
Honestly, I think we can all relate to that.
So I looked into what can I do alone? Because my time is essentially, I'm donating my time to the game for free, right? So what kind of tool can I do? And we live in a weird zeitgeist in which generative AI exists. And I had literally never used it before. I'm personally not even a big fan for numerous reasons that we can go into if you like. But point is, I started looking into it as an engineer. The only subjects that a generative AI, at least the tool I'm using, is capable of generating with any degree of vague competence is monsters that are based in zoology, beasts, right? And human faces. As long as you don't make it do hands, you'll be fine. Right? And I said, okay, well, what can I work around this? So I brainstormed, talked to my children, saw what they thought, etc., etc. And I essentially accepted it was going to be beasts, and it was going to be these political figures that would be interested in the beast's characteristics and judge you based on that. I thought they were solid enough to work from.
Obviously, the use of AI art is frowned upon for a couple of reasons, and I think you've touched upon one of them already, this idea that it prevents an artist from getting a job. Although, I mean, you've made the case here that you tried to go that route, but it was simply cost prohibitive. The other argument is that AI art tends to be lifeless, that, people just ask the computer to make something for them, and that's basically it. So how would you respond to that?
If perhaps the feedback is that people haven't worked enough to make that final asset, at least in my case, that is impossible.
Okay.
Long story short, it takes me about probably between 2 and 4 hours to generate one asset at its raw stage, right? Once I've generated it, then I need to export it, I need to color correct it, I need to brightness, I need to gamma correct it, essentially. Maybe that's the same thing. Then I need to take out details that are wrong. And it's kind of difficult to spot them all because it's so many cards and I'm alone. Right? So, this game doesn't have an artist's touch, sort of though, because I did consult my artist friends to ask them about the iconography, which I made myself. And they helped me with direction, but set that aside. But it has a huge footprint that is manual and human coming from me.
Now I'd like to chat a little bit about your publisher, Dragon Dawn Productions. Did they look into the possibility of commissioning artists to redo the illustrations for this game, or did they think it looked well enough as it was?
Well, yes to both questions, or to both possibilities. The issue is that my publisher is extremely small.
Okay.
We can't afford to make this game as pretty as it is, or even vaguely pretty. Just impossible it would be, right? Now, with that said, the publisher also thought it looked really great. For example, initially they went like, we should definitely make box art with a human touch, and I said that sounds great. So I contacted my very good friend Michael back in Montreal, right? And I told him, hey Mikey, how's it going? I've got this thing, and he told me, yeah, I can probably put it together for you. It's probably going to be 3 weeks, and then he quoted me a number, and he deserves all of that money. Just so we're clear, right? I think this man is a fantastic artist, and I would enjoy nothing more than having his work in my product, but I can't.
All right, well, let me at least ask a hypothetical question. Let's say the Kickstarter does amazingly well. It makes, I don't know, $1 million.
Yeah, that's happening. You watch.
Okay, well, humor me at least. Would you entertain the possibility of a reprint or maybe a second edition using commissioned art?
Let me answer you this way. There is nothing I would like more than having the time and the resources to be able to source, to empower an artist or two or three to work together to come up with a vision for this game where all of the monsters and the people therein would look varied, interesting, fantastic, and coherent. Okay? I would be very, very happy with that. With that said, like I said, it's not going to happen, but even humoring you, even in that case, I do not know what kind of numbers we would need to be talking about. It needs to make financial sense, at least vaguely.
I think we're going to respect that. And I think that we can appreciate that, you are where you are because you essentially had to be. And I think that's something that is certainly worth some additional attention. Mike, I really appreciate you being here today. Thanks for taking my questions. Thanks for chatting with the audience. And I wish you the best with the Kickstarter project.
Thank you. Likewise, I really enjoyed myself. And I'm very curious to see how much of that car talk you leave in the cut.
Well, I won't be able to keep it all for this video, but I will tell you, the audience, that I've edited this interview down significantly for time and to stay mostly entwined within the topic of Mike's use of generative art. But I do intend on releasing the entire interview here in the channel if you'd simply like to hear more about Mike's challenges in getting this game to where it is today, the, in my opinion, fascinating origins of this game, and even some detailed explanation as to how he learned to effectively use his art generative tool of choice. By all means, please go and check that out. For now, I think this is a good spot to wrap up this video. If you'd like to learn more about beasts and diplomacy, certainly head over to the project page on Kickstarter, to which I'll post a link in this video's description. Thanks for tuning in, and be safe out there, folks. You never know where the beasts will be lurking. Cheers.